The person posted that they had an issue with something I said in a video.
Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art.
Good day, listeners. This is CJMiller, the host of the Spiritual Artist Podcast. And I have to tell you something. Since I started doing my podcast and posting things on YouTube, I have been fed just about everything from listeners. I had one person tell me that I was evil. I had another person say that I was going to go to hell because I was listening to spirits. But the funny thing was, someone just posted something that I think little Chris, or maybe greater Chris, took such offense to that I had to share it with you. The person posted that they had an issue with something I said in a video. And I said, as an artist, you should not look to imitate other people's work. And I've heard this before from my friends, and they say, oh, but it's important to, and I'm like, no, 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 no. The challenge, the problem, the reason I don't like that is because you learn how to imitate and you never find your own voice. So imagine when this guy posted on there that he had trouble with that, he said, that is incorrect. It triggered me. I mean, it really triggered me. I've literally been told that I'm going to burn in hell because I listened to that voice within, that intuition. I've had people comment on my age in videos. You wouldn't believe what people post and say to you. But this most offended me. I never, ever, ever teach people to imitate others. And he went on to say that, well, you obviously want them to follow your method. So let me explain something to you about my method and why I think it's so valuable. It is not about following a system of painting. It's about finding out what is original to you. So I just got back from a spiritual art retreat, and let me tell you, we do everything we can to help people uncover their own unique creative DNA. I do meditation, I do mindfulness, I do body movement, somatic body movement. We do asemic dueling, but everything is designed to teach you to get in touch with marks that are native to you. So I'm going to reference at the end of this the video that he commented on. It's about asemic drawing or asemic writing, and I have termed it or retermed it spiritual asemic writing. What that is that's a way for you to make marks, expressive painting, expressive mark making, whatever you want to call it, that are authentic to you. When you start there, when you start on just making marks, they will slowly form into something. Sometimes they're iconic, sometimes they're figurative, sometimes they're just blurs and swirls and graphic composition because you're going way back. And so I want to explain to you what I do. I use music to trigger you, to get in touch with your feelings, but most importantly, I teach my artists to listen to the voice within. All of these skills, by the way, transfer over into real life. But in the studio, I want you to play a song. Note, how do you feel before you heard the song come on? How do you feel when you hear the lyrics of the song? How does it impact you? I teach you to stand back from your emotions and let them flow through you, to stand back from your thoughts and your judgment, to pause and to listen to that intuition, intuition, intuition. My goal is always to make everybody original. And I have to tell you, I was so thrilled with my recent retreat in Santa Fe. About 2 days in, I stood there and I looked around at the room, and every artist had a painting taped up on the wall and they were working on something different. But what was so neat, every single style was unique. Do you hear that? Every single style was unique. There wasn't a person in there painting like little CJ. There was a person painting in there with figures. There was a person painting with angry strokes. There was a person painting something geometric. Everybody was following their own voice. That's what a spiritual artist does. And so it took me just such offense. I can't believe it was running through my mind while I was painting. And so I had to stop painting, give it a break, because as we know, when thoughts overcome your mind in the middle of painting, it's time to put the brush down. Go and deal with those thoughts. And then after I record this, I can go back to that painting and continue working on it. But most importantly, I don't ever teach people to look or paint like me. And if anybody in my class ever started doing that, I would knock them in the head. I would actually not knock them in the head, but I would be kind and help them refocus on who they are, what their creative DNA is. So I want to tell you a little story. Years and years ago, when I first started painting, it was probably 20 years ago, I was going to a community college. And I took a professor that was doing abstracts, and I thought this would be really neat. I'd love to learn how to do abstracts. And there was about 20 people in the class, and we all painted something, and I painted, and I was so connected to who I was. And I used garbage bags and rollers, and I remember that feeling. It was probably one of the first times where I was just in that place, right? That place of motion. And people would watch me while I was painting. They were watching the energy of me because it was so wonderful and bountiful. And I created a painting. Well, this professor, like most, and I did this just at my retreat, he sat down and he had us all line our paintings up on the wall. And he went down the wall and he commented on them. And he was a nice guy. He was a nice enough guy. But what was interesting is most of the paintings looked like him. They were his style. They were broken the same way he broke the horizon. They were geometric, they were compositionally driven, they were abstracts, even some of the same colors that he uses. And of course he gets to mine. And mine is this swirl and shapes and so different, so unique. And he actually said it wasn't very good. Let me tell you something. Teachers have such power if you give it to them. So never, ever give your teacher, including me, that power. Know and trust your inner voice. And I sat there and I was like, whatever. I wasn't going to paint like him. I was finding my own voice. And I want to tell you what really impressed me is after he broke the class up and everybody went back to their desk, at three different students walked up to me and said, I don't care what Professor so and so said. Your painting is gorgeous. Three. They made a special attempt to come up to me and say that. So I want to tell you that the most important thing is to listen to your voice. Be original and don't let a teacher tell you, look like me, paint like me, apply paint. And if someone says, and this teacher, by the way, he was the same teacher that one class we just sat there and he put a slide projector up and he went through all the great artists. This is Matisse, this is Picasso. And then he proceeded to go around the class and tell each student who they were. You're Matisse, which is so, as far as I'm concerned, misinformed. You are nobody else. You are original. You're one of a kind. I want you to hear that. If you're listening to this podcast right now, I want you to take a deep breath and soak that in. There never will be, there never has been, and there never will be again someone like you walking on the planet Earth. All these components that come together, your DNA, your personality, your history, your life experiences come together to create something that is totally unique. And so your challenge is to always express that. Don't hold back. Let that uniqueness come out, whatever it is. And you know what? It doesn't matter if it sells. It doesn't matter if it gets accepted into a gallery. What matters is that when you're doing it, you feel it. You feel the passion of connection. You know who you are. That's what matters. It's the experience of painting. The thing is just the manifestation. It's just the thing. All things fade, all things grow old, all things change. But that experience and that feeling stays alive in your spirit. So the guy was really nice when he made this comment. I know he didn't mean to trigger me. And it's obviously we always learn when someone does trigger us. That's an opportunity to reflect and say, why did this trigger little Chris so much? Well, because it's so obvious that I want people to be original. And so I appreciate that he gave me that comment to remind me of who I am and what I love about my spiritual asemic program, my methods, how I teach people to paint, because I'm teaching you through your body, through your emotions, by calming your mind, by reflecting on your life to find who you are, what authentic marks are unique to you. And that's all that matters. And then, most importantly, all the students at the retreat came up to me and said, wow, what an experience. I just had the greatest experience because really, the painting, it's great, but the feeling, So I'm hoping to get some more podcast interviews out to you soon. I know this is a little slow right now. I just got back from the retreat. I'm kind of regrouping, but I want to remind you that you are and always will be unique. So go out there, be creative, and be a spiritual artist. Oh, by the way, you can buy my book, The Spiritual Artist, on Amazon and find out how these methods all come together. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.